Yes, I would support your right to free speech.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not free speech, it's hate speech. There's a right to do that?
Yeah, I think he has a right to do it.
Really?
Agreeing that someone has a right to do something isn't the same as agreeing with what they say.
We have people who defame all the time, like the guest I just heard in my ear tried implying who she wasn't courageous enough to say who she meant. That one of the people on this panel is somehow promoted by... I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm hearing a voice in my ear because I'm not actually done talking yet.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we're going to watch Piers Morgan being repeatedly schooled on his own show regarding free speech and whether Alex Jones should have been reinstated to X or not. Before Glenn Greenwald comes in and serves up a fantastic roasting to an unknown progressive activist. And for those of you who aren't aware, Piers Morgan and Alex Jones have some history.
Should never let us tolerate
to murder.
I can speak in this accent as well.
Yeah.
So Piers Morgan obviously has a personal vendetta against Alex Jones, and during this interview, Piers also has some real mask-off moments. So let's get into the first bit, where rapper and political commentator Zuby makes some great points, which I'll expand on.
Welcome back to Uncensored. Elon Musk's reversal, Alex Jones's return to X has sparked outrage from a grieving father who lost his son in the tragic Sandy Hook massacre. David Wheeler, his son Benjamin, was the sixth when he was shot dead along with 20 others, has slammed Musk as a sociopath. The ex-owner previously condemned Jones for exploiting the death of children for personal gain, politics or fame, and then did a U-turn. Well, I'm joined in the studio by my pack, the rapper and podcaster, Zuby, broadcaster as well, Talk TV contributor and family lawyer, Paula Ron Adrian, and the journalist and former newspaper editor, Emily Sheffield. Welcome to all of you. Zuby, you think I'm a flaming hypocrite about free speech because I want Alex Jones to be continually banned from X. Why am I a hypocrite?
Do you support freedom of speech?
Yes.
So how do you reconcile that?
All free speech, even in America, which has probably the finest protection of free speech in the world with the First Amendment, has a number of things which are excluded, including defamation. He was just found guilty by several courts of the most egregious defamation in modern American history. And it was because he targeted, for years, the poor families of the Sandy Hook children who were massacred in that school shooting. And he has not paid a dime to those families of the $1.2 billion he's supposed to be paying. And it's an absolute disgrace. And I agree with what Elon Musk said a year ago, which is anyone that seeks to benefit or gain from the deaths of children for personal gain or fame or whatever should not be allowed on X. Now he's changed his mind. I think he's being hypocritical, not me.
Well, over the past decade, I know that for a fact that Alex Jones has apologized for that many, many times. We're talking about things that he said.
Only when he was facing financial oblivion.
No, he apologized.
No, only when he was actually being held to account for it.
No, prior to that.
No, he didn't. He never apologized prior to that.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Only when he was sued.
No, he apologized prior to that. I know that as a fact. Listen to his Joe Rogan appearance about 4 years ago. He apologized very profusely.
But that was after the lawsuits were coming in.
I don't know about that.
It was.
Anyway, I think if X is going to be a free speech platform, it needs to be a free speech platform.
Would you let Nick Fuentes back on?
Yes. Absolutely.
A white supremacist anti-Semite?
Yeah, as long as he doesn't break the rules.
Guys, if you like this video and if you want to help me reach as many people as possible with this message, then don't hesitate to chuck a like on the video. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and if you're getting value from what I do here and what we do very regularly, then click that big juicy red button. Welcome. Back to the clips.
Well, those are breaking the rules.
No, having views, having thoughts in your head is not against the law.
What about saying
the rules
on his show?
If you say things on the platform that violate the platform.
And if you promote your show and you say them on your show?
Well,
if I started spewing white supremacist stuff in front of you, right, and I then tweeted a link to the show, you'd be happy with that?
I'm not saying I would be happy with it, but I wouldn't want you banned from X for that.
Really? So I could look down the barrel of this camera and say I think all black people should be thrown out of this country.
Watch how they clip this one.
Well, no, okay. So someone will clip it, right? And I could say that.
Yes.
And then I could tweet a link to this show to promote the show.
Yes.
And you would think I should stay on X.
Yes. I would support your right to free speech.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not free speech, it's hate speech.
No, it's freedom of speech specifically exists to protect views and people espousing views.
But there are 6 different criteria excluded under the First Amendment. including child pornography, including defamation, including all sorts of things. You can't famously go into a theatre and shout fire if it's crowded theatre, right?
Sure, but you can say
So there are lots of restrictions already.
Look, there are people who think that I engage in hate speech. There's people who think that you engage in hate speech. Hate speech is a very subjective, it's an extraordinarily subjective term. And if anyone who has ever said anything
So for you, there's
over
no
the
limit.
decades,
Anyone can say anything.
I don't think you can directly call to violence.
Right.
No, I don't think you can.
Alex Jones's words led to direct violent confrontations.
Not directly. No,
yeah, they did.
No, that's not.
People were
I don't think that's
urinated on the
honest.
kids' graves.
Okay.
Because they believed Alex Jones
let me ask you a question.
when he said it was a hoax,
If someone,
which he knew was untrue.
What do you think is the correct path to redemption? If someone has said something that you would
I think
disagree
if
with?
you do what he did for that number of years, and you have a $1.2 billion award against you, and you don't pay the families 1 cent, declare yourself bankrupt to avoid it, you don't get to come back onto a social media platform and start earning money.
Well, he does. He's come back on.
I know, because Elon Musk, in my view, has made a terrible mistake.
So big mask off moment there for Piers.
Yes, I would support your right to free speech.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not free speech, it's hate speech.
Thank you for that insight, Piers. So it's not just about the children, and it's not just about their parents. You just don't believe in freedom of speech. Like Zuby said, hate speech is an incredibly subjective term, and somebody's hate speech might be another person's facts and logic. And in the digital age, where everybody has an opinion and everybody can be a journalist with a click of a finger, people are going to have vastly different opinions, especially on Twitter, the place where all people do all the time is just fight each other. And I don't think that Piers Morgan is low IQ enough to think that anybody could police hate speech on X. I think he just doesn't really care about free speech and is LARPing as somebody who does. In case you didn't know, Piers, if you believe in free speech, then you believe in one's right to espouse speech that you find detestable. So if you don't believe in that, then please don't act like the Uncensored guy.
Welcome to my fearless new forum for ferocious debate, fabulous people, and yes, free speech. I'm cancelling cancel culture. Every time you hit like or subscribe, one snowflake melts. That's not free speech, it's hate speech.
And don't try and claim that just because you've had people from both sides of the Israel-Palestine conflict, that this makes you some champion of free speech. It doesn't. It's opportunistic journalism. We see the numbers that you're getting, and I'm all for it, but please stop with the uncensored stuff. The very essence of free speech is that everybody gets to say their piece so that we can hear all opinions and decipher who we think is right. And this notion rests upon the axiom of human fallibility, the idea that nobody is omniscient, as much as some may think they are. And Zuby and myself actually believe in free speech until it means inciting violence, and not you said something on your show or on your social media and then somebody on the other side of the world did X. No, as in you told somebody to do X directly and they did X. I believe that in order to defeat or ameliorate bad ideas, we must necessarily present better ideas, and that tyrants desire for people who have important things to say to self-censor and hold their tongues out of fear. And the last point, and it was a brilliant point by Zuby, who said,
what do you think is the correct path to redemption? If someone has said something that you would disagree with.
And it's a good point. I mean, what are we doing here? Are we going to banish everybody from polite society who's done something wrong in the past? Even those individuals who it's their job to engage with very difficult and serious ideas? You expect everyone to get everything right? And even more yet, you expect people not to get things seriously wrong sometimes? Okay, let's play that game with you then. You were one of the foremost advocates for the jab. You constantly berated people who didn't want to get it.
You either have the jab or you don't go to work, I think.
And then the facts come out that this thing can be very dangerous and it doesn't stop transmission. And many people actually got seriously injured from it, in case your head is still buried in the sand.
And let's do it together, live on air. If you take it, I take it, Susanna takes it, I think it will have an impact.
Well, we'd have to get that approved because, of course, the
You've also been one of the biggest champions for a proxy war in Eastern Europe that has claimed the lives unnecessarily of hundreds and thousands of young men. Some people think that maybe you should be banned, Piers. And now on to the next part, where Piers talks to a guy called Count Dankula. If you guys haven't heard of him, he was the Scottish guy who was arrested, charged, and nearly imprisoned for making his girlfriend's pug do a Nazi salute as a joke.
My girlfriend is always ranting and raving about how cute and adorable her wee dog is, so I thought I would turn him into the least cute thing that I could think of, which is a Nazi.
Hate speech. What do you feel about this? I mean, I've written a column for the New York Post saying I think it's an outrageous decision by Elon Musk, who only a year ago himself said that because one of his children had died in his arms, his own kids, that he never wanted to see anybody who would profit from the death of children for personal gain, for fame or politics. Now he's done a U-turn on that. Is he right?
Yeah, I think he's completely right in doing it. It's
Why?
Elon Musk's company, so if he wants Alex Jones back on the platform, then he absolutely can. And he did put it to a poll to the public, you know, Vox Populi, Vox Day, and people said they wanted him back on the platform, so he's brought them back on the platform.
Well, it's an amateur poll. 2 million of his followers voted. We don't know how many times each one voted, etc., etc. It's not a sophisticated.
Each account can only vote once.
Yeah, but my point is there a line though on free speech at all for you?
For me personally, no.
Nothing.
No. I think that Alex Jones should be able to go on Twitter. If they want him there, then that's fine. They can have him there, and he can.
Do you think what he said about the Sandy Hook massacre was justified then?
Justified? Like, he has the right to say it. Wouldn't say it was justified.
I mean, $1.2 billion worth of damages awarded against him for one of the most serious
biggest civil suit against an individual in the history of America.
One of the worst defamations, actually, in terms of damages America's ever seen. Damages and defamation is not protected by the First Amendment, and yet you think he was entitled to say it.
I think he had a right to say it.
He's a right to say that a mass shooting that killed 20 young kids was a fake and a hoax, that the parents of the grieving dead were crisis actors. These were statements which he repeatedly made, which led to actual intimidation, harassment, death and rape threats, and people in the street going up to these people and confronting them, these parents. You think all that is fine?
I don't think it's fine. I never said it's fine. I said he has a right to do it.
Does he have a right to do it?
Yeah, agreeing that someone has a right.
Do you think he has a right to do that?
Yeah, I think he has a right to do it.
Really?
Agreeing that someone has a right to do something isn't the same as agreeing with what they say.
No, I agree.
I agree.
It's a case of, you actually think he has a right to do what he did, with the consequences we now know happened?
Yes, basically, a bunch of nutters did do a lot of awful stuff after the fact, but that's basically going down the same route of, remember back in the 90s, they wanted to ban video games and Dungeons and Dragons because they thought it caused violence and devil worship. Or you can't, engage with this type of, media, otherwise it's going to cause X, Y, Z, like rap music causes violence, all that other nonsense. If we're saying, this guy's not allowed to say his conspiracy theories or whatever you want to call them because some crazy guy out there might do something mental, then nobody can talk about anything at all.
Well, you can. There are limits to free speech as there are everything else. Even First Amendment America has a number of limitations to it.
Okay, so Count Dankula looks like he's just sort of chilling in second gear this whole time. And that is one of the reasons why this is such a profound W for him. And because he actually has a coherent position, which is free speech absolutism, and actually is able to be consistent with that position. He says Alex Jones has the right to free speech. He is not responsible for the actions of other people. And just because I believe that Alex Jones has that right doesn't mean that I agree with everything that he says and that I believe that everything he says is good. I mean, I'm pretty sure Piers Morgan understands that concept. I could probably train my dog to understand that concept, but he chooses to create the straw man instead. But props to Count Dankula there, who just stayed cool, reiterated his point of view, and emphatically won that exchange. And now on to the last bit where a progressive who nobody's ever heard of comes into the mix and tries to put it on Glenn Greenwald. To no avail.
Let me go to Niki Cons. Niki, what is your response to Elon Musk putting Alex Jones back on X?
What I find so fascinating about Elon Musk is he uses a very loose absolutist definition of free speech for his needs, but for his company, but doesn't use the same standards for, say, the algorithm. I mean, he has no problem giving Russian bots that boost some of these guests on the show with the free speech rights, but does not give people of color and women the same rights. So this is not an equal playing field. Number one, they're not the government. Number two, they're not following the United States free speech laws. There are limitations, as you said, incitement, defamation, fraud, threats, child porn, obscenity. Those are the limitations to free speech. And there is a whole lot of that going on Twitter. So if he wants to be an equal playing field free speech absolutist, then clean up the bots, clean up the algorithm, make it completely transparent and democratized, and let people like me and then people of color and smaller accounts have the same effect as, say, someone who's being boosted by Russian bots.
Okay, let me bring in Glenn Greenwald. Glenn, you like me, you're a big supporter of the principle of free speech. And let's just lay that on the table. I call this show Uncensored because I want it to celebrate free speech. But I've always been aware there are limitations. And under the First Amendment, which is one of the greatest protectors of free speech anywhere in the world, defamation is not protected under the First Amendment. And this was clearly one of the most serious defamations of a body of people that America has ever seen. So I don't understand why, just for that reason alone, why Elon Musk has performed this U-turn with Alex Jones.
I think the issue, Piers, is what they do on the platform. We have all kinds of terrible people using social media. We have people who lied the United States into a devastating war in Iraq, including the current president of the United States. We have people who defame all the time, like the guest I just heard in my ear tried implying, though she wasn't courageous enough to say who she meant, that one of the people on this panel is somehow promoted by... I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm hearing a voice in my ear because I'm not actually done talking yet. So the standard, Piers, that Elon Musk enunciated when he first bought Twitter is one that I supported, even though he hasn't always adhered to it, which is, as long as people are using that platform in ways that the law allows speech to persist, to be able to be expressed, then everybody should be able to be heard. What they do outside the platform, I don't think we want social media, Facebook saying, oh, this person did something terrible off the platform, now we're going to ban them. Otherwise, we're going to have big tech censors who sit in judgment of everybody's behavior and whether they're a good person off the platform.
Right, but on this, Alex Jones did use Twitter to amplify his disgusting lies about Sandy Hook, and he will now be able to monetize all of his conspiracy theories to his heart's content on X without having paid a single dime of the 1.2 billion damages awarded against him, which should be going to the families of the Sandy Hook victims that he so cruelly defamed. That's my problem with this, is he's not just any old Joe who got deplatformed, got brought back. This is a guy at the centre of the biggest defamation case in recent times who hasn't paid any of his dues to these people.
But Piers, if he monetizes his platform on X, that is income that those plaintiffs will easily be able to get. And if he uses the platform to spread conspiracy theories or defamation that falls outside of what free speech absolutism is, and I think Twitter would be justified in banning him. But what do? You ban people forever if they say something defamatory? Like I said, there are people who have done a lot worse than Alex Jones who are using Twitter, including bringing about wars, lying to deceive the public in elections. And I don't think that we want this standard that says anything other than, as long as you say things that are within the First Amendment, you should be entitled to use social media. Once you don't, you should have a just punishment. He's been banned for many years now, and I think Elon Musk is saying, okay, it's time to bring him back and see how he uses the platform.
But so what to me? Okay, but you see, my criteria has always been that if you were a world leader, or an elected official, actually, of any kind, at any level, then I think everything that you tweet should be left on the historical record in perpetuity, right? We just had a big issue here with ministers losing their WhatsApp messages at the crucial part of the pandemic. Shouldn't be allowed. It should all be public property, this kind of stuff. So I'd separate elected officials from ordinary people like Alex Jones. But what Alex Jones
But what about journalists? What about journalists who lied the UK and the US into war? There are plenty of those people who still are doing those things. They're still lying people into wars. They're still lying about wars. Are you comfortable with having Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, or Google sit in judgment?
Glenn, what about Nazis? I mean, you've defended Nazis in the past because you're a free speech absolutist as a lawyer. So why is it some people get more power when it comes to free speech, more rights when it comes to free speech, but others don't?
Like who?
Again, this is
Like
not
who?
a level playing field.
She's complaining because nobody has an interest. She's complaining because nobody has an interest in watching her show or listening to her on Twitter. So she's complaining that the algorithm somehow quiet her, suppress her.
I'm talking about algorithms in which people do not have equal rights. So you're using
No, that's not the case at all. That's not how it works on Twitter at all.
You're assuming that Alex Jones has the same rights as everybody else on Twitter, and that is just not true.
Okay, you know what? Okay, listen, it's a very interesting debate. I wish I could talk about it longer. We've run out of time, but thank you, all of you. All I would say is, personally, there has to be a line with people like Jones who commit atrocious defamations, are not held remotely accountable for it, and are then welcomed back like free speech heroes. They're not free speech heroes. He's a hate speech monster for me.
She's actually pulling the algorithm card there because she doesn't get any engagement on Twitter. She's saying it must be the fault of the algorithm. And as somebody who doesn't get any traction on Twitter myself, I can tell you it has nothing to do with the algorithms because I've only been on there for a few months. I don't really know how it works that well, and I only post subjectively funny memes. So there's probably only a small handful of people who get any value from my content. But check out what she posted straight after this interview. So Glenn Greenwald posted, "I spoke to Piers Morgan about the decision of Elon Musk to restore Alex Jones's account on X. Piers has done a great job airing all views lately, but this is the second straight time that I ended up on a panel with a deranged person who couldn't control herself from ranting." And then she says, "Fascist puppet Glenn Greenwald calls me deranged after questioning why, as an attorney, he represented Nazis. Is it free speech absolutism if your algorithm gives more free speech to some and leaves women and people of color fighting to be heard while drowning in harassment?"
Yes, Queen, slay! Slay! Slay your enemies! Ruler of one of the realms of men! Smite down those that oppose you!
Do you really think it's the algorithm holding you back? Or could it be your insufferable victim mindset? Or maybe the fact that you have the most forgettable name on earth, Niki Const. There is absolutely nothing about your name that rolls off the tongue. In fact, it trips and stumbles across the tongue, like a drunken English girl floundering through Soho in high heels at 3 a.m. And also, she's saying that he represented Nazis, whatever that means in this day and age, when he was an attorney. Yeah. That's what attorneys do. And in the United States, people are presumed innocent until proven guilty and have the right to a fair trial. No shit, Niki. Anyways, guys, as per usual, you can find me below if you hit those links. And also, if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can go right here, click that button. And if you'd like to watch another video, right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.